The Israeli regime committed another massacre in the north of the Gaza Strip, killing more than 30 Palestinians in the city of Jabalia. After expressing interest in resuming talks with the United States, Iran reaffirmed its willingness to engage in dialogue. And the Venezuelan government denounced the kidnapping of 18 migrant children by the U.S. government and demanded their safe return to the country. Hello and welcome from the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Israeli regime committed another massacre in the north of the Gaza Strip, killing more than 30 Palestinians in the city of Jabalia. Precisely, health authorities in Gaza reported that at least 18 Gazans were hit by Israeli bombings in al-Nasla, with another 11 civilians being killed in the al-Balad neighborhood and 4 more near a school. The Israeli army threatened to intensify attacks in other areas and ordered residents to evacuate the south of the city. In this context, the Gaza Ministry of Health reported that around 14,000 patients are trapped in hospitals without any sign of medical treatment due to the Israeli blockade of supplies or transfer out of Gaza. Also, Palestinian citizens denounced the actions of Israel and the U.S. aid distribution system against civilians.
The targeting was deliberate, aimed at people as they were leaving. There was no one among us who was wanted or posed any threat. We were all civilians simply trying to get food for our children. We were directly targeted by Israeli artillery. We demand an end to the U.S. aid distribution system. We call for aid to be distributed through the World Food Program, or UNRWA. We appeal to all Arab countries and humanitarian organizations to stand with us, we or die.
The Israeli military admitted to receiving orders to shoot Palestinian civilians at food distribution centers. An Israeli soldier revealed that senior army commanders constantly ordered them to attack crowds in the Gaza Strip, where life had supposedly lost all value. The soldiers pointed out that they were supposedly using weapons for peaceful purposes and resumed firing machine guns and grenades at the crowd after noticing that the Palestinian population was approaching the distribution centers. Since May 27th, the Gazan Health Ministry has reported nearly 549 civilian deaths and over 4,000 injuries, calling it a violation of international humanitarian law. As news of a possible ceasefire in Palestine spread, Gazans greet the possibility with deep skepticism due to months of suffering and unfulfilled promises. Citizens explained that since the beginning of aggressions, they have promised a ceasefire in exchange for the Israeli hostages. However, the Israeli regime has increased attacks against the Palestinian population, despite the fact that many of those held have been released. These comments come as U.S. President Donald Trump urged the Israeli regime to reach an agreement. The Israeli aggression and total food blockade has brought the Strip to the brink of collapse. The United Nations warns of a humanitarian crisis with 2.1 million people suffering from food insecurity. After expressing interest in resuming talks with the United States, Iran reaffirmed its willingness to engage in dialogue. Tehran stated that there must be a guarantee from Washington that it will not attack the Islamic country again in the future for there to be dialogue. The Iranian government stated that no dates have been set for new talks. They also affirmed that despite the call for dialogue, they remain on alert due to the threats of a plan devised by Washington and Tel Aviv to destabilize and change the regime. Meanwhile, United States mediators claim they have no such intentions against Iran or the Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, despite the fact that the threat originated with President Donald Trump. Iranian authorities unveiled that the attack perpetrated by Israel against Tehran's Evin prison on June 23rd killed 71 people. According to the spokesperson for the Iranian judiciary, Asghar Jahangir, the victims included members of the prison staff as well as convicts, visitors and residents of nearby buildings. Jahangir described the attack as terrorist and brutal, adding it affected the nursing ward, the technical and engineering division, and the visiting area of the prison complex. On June 13th, the Israeli regime launched major airstrikes against various areas of Iran under the pretext of neutralizing its nuclear bases, although the aggression targeted civilian buildings and the headquarters of the national television, among others. In Serbia, at least 70 people have been injured, including 48 police officers, amid protests against President Aleksandar Vučić. During Sunday's protest, which took place in the capital Belgrade, a crowd of students and opposition supporters began throwing firecrackers and various objects at police barricades set up in front of the executive headquarters, demanding early parliamentary elections. The demonstrations happened in a context of social unrest, exacerbated by the collapse of a canopy at the Novi Sad train station last November, which led to criticisms of authorities for alleged negligence. The Serbian government has denounced the protest as an attempt to overthrow power with a decade-long billionaire financing by foreign operators. In this context, Serbian President Vučić has ruled out the early elections requested by the protesters. Russia warned the West against promoting a color revolution after taking advantage of the protests carried out by the opposition in Serbia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denounced that the Western nations often take advantage of certain internal events to promote their interests to the detriment of the country. The head of Russian diplomacy has expressed his desire for these protests to be resolved soon within the bounds of Serbian law. Furthermore, the Russian diplomat reminded that this is not the first time that similar events have occurred in the Balkan country, and therefore called for dialogue between the authorities and protesters. The government of Russia reaffirmed its interest in strengthening bilateral relations with Azerbaijan. After the arrest of 2 Russian journalists in Azerbaijan, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that such actions were taken under law enforcement and have no justification. In this regard, the Russian official reiterated Moscow's intention to maintain the development of good relations and cooperation with Baku. Meanwhile, the Azerbaijani authorities recently suspended the Russian cultural events and the visit of the parliamentary delegation to Russia because of the alleged acts of violence against their citizens in the Russian city of Ekaterinburg. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Spain, the 4th United Nations International Conference on Financing for Development kicked off in Sevilla with about 200 national and international political figures in attendance. The opening ceremony of the event was chaired by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, and King Felipe VI of Spain. During 4 days of work that will last until Thursday, July 3rd, roundtables will be held to address issues such as taxation, private financing, development cooperation, trade, science, technology and innovation. There will also be multiple special events on the sidelines of the conference, including a civil society forum, a feminist forum, and the Day of Local and Regional Governments of Spain. Precisely in the framework of the 4th United Nations Conference on Financing for Development, Honduran President Xiomara Castro denounced on Monday inequalities in the global financial system, calling for models that guarantee fiscal justice and credit equity. This way, Castro emphasized that countries around the world spend more on paying off foreign debt than on financing sectors such as health and education. The head of state noted that Latin America and the Caribbean are among the regions most affected by financial models imposed by international credit organizations and private banks. President Xiomara Castro also noted that Honduras was victimized by economic dismantling after neoliberal governments turned the country into a narco state.
Hago un llamado urgente a una transformación estructural.
I urgently call for a structural transformation of the global financial system. This transformation must entail the elimination of tax privileges, consistent control of the powerful, and the establishment of a financial model based on fairness and dignity.
Canada resumes trade negotiations with the United States after reversing its intention to impose new taxes on U.S. technology companies. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that in negotiating a new economic relationship between Canada and the U.S., the new Canadian government will always be guided by the full contribution of any potential agreement to the best interest of Canadian workers and businesses. Canada's Finance Department announced in a statement that it would rescind the digital services tax in anticipation of a mutually beneficial trade agreement. U.S. President Donald Trump broke off trade negotiations with Canada on Friday after reapproaching that country for the tax, which would be applied retroactively from 2022. In the United States, tech tycoon Elon Musk strongly criticized President Trump's budget plan, calling it an abomination. Musk stated that the U.S. head of state proposal could result in the destruction of millions of jobs throughout the country, while also highlighting the fact that it would only benefit large corporations. The bill, recently approved by the Republican majority House of Representatives, seeks to deepen social cuts in medical programs such as Medicaid and increase military defense spending for the country, as well as immigration control expenditures. The businessman accused the House of Representatives of having made an error in approving the cuts and expenses bill. In the U.S., at least 2 firefighters were killed Sunday in a shooting during a forest fire in Idaho, prompting the Federal Bureau of Investigation to deploy to investigate a report of a possible ambush on the fire. Kootenai County Sheriff Robert Norris confirmed the death toll at a press conference in which he indicated that emergency crews are actively taking sniper fire and added that the fire on the mountain was still active. So far, the motive of the attack is unknown, but the local press reports an alleged ambush. The shooting began at around 2 p.m. local time, a half hour after the Kootenai County Emergency Management Office began efforts to respond to a wildfire on Canfield Mountain. In Mexico, the government dismantled one of the main criminal organizations dedicated to the thief and illegal commercialization of hydrocarbons in the center of the country through a simultaneous operation in Mexico City, Mexico State, and Querétaro. According to the Secretary of Security and Citizen Protection, Omar Garcia Harfuch, 32 people were arrested. The Attorney General of the Republic, Alejandro Gertz Manero, highlighted that this was possible thanks to the coordination of the institutions of the Security Cabinet, which were investigating the case for over 6 months. Garcia Harfuch revealed that the modus operandi of this network consisted in drilling ventilation ducts of Pemex to extract liquefied petroleum gas and gasoline. And we have a second short break coming up, and this is a final short break. Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date to the world's most recent events. On a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Monday, the Venezuelan government denounced the kidnapping of 18 migrant children by the U.S. government and demanded their safe return to the country. During a press conference, the head of the Unified Command of the Bolivarian Revolution, Jorge Rodriguez, condemned the separation of the Venezuelan children from their relatives after their deportation. Rodriguez, together with family members of the kidnapped migrants in El Salvador, denounced before national and international public opinion the kidnapping of children as an example of barbarism, which violates the Universal Declaration of the Rights of the Child, the United Nations Charter, and international law. Furthermore, he condemned the lack of action of United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk, who has yet to call for the release of those illegally kidnapped.
De 4 años de edad. ¿Qué le hizo él a Marcos Rubio? ¿Qué le hizo él? Nosotros hemos decidido.
We have decided to go to the public because we have already had frequent contact with Trump administration officials. In fact, we have spoken more often with Trump administration officials than we have with Joe Biden administration officials, including State Department officials with whom we have frequent exchanges. We have always told them, give us back our children. Not only have they committed no crime, but their parents, many of whom are here, have not committed any crime to be separated from their children and grandchildren.
In Venezuela, government authorities remain deployed throughout the affected western states to assess the impact of heavy rains associated with several tropical waves. In the state of Readiness, preventive and citizen security agencies supervised areas at risk, monitoring water levels in rivers and water treatment plants, while in Trujillo, national authorities ensured social assistance for the population in the affected municipalities, as well as the execution of road clearance works, river dredging, and the opening of alternate routes. In this context, in the state of Mérida, as an effective response by volunteers and the national government, more than 2 tons of supplies are being transported by air to guarantee support for Indian communities impacted by the torrential rainfall. In Uruguay, the cold wave that goes with snow and sleet continues Monday, and it will be maintained in upcoming days in several parts of the capital. The phenomenon was further reported in other areas of western Montevideo, such as Sayago and Paso de la Arena. In this regard, experts forecast that the cold wave will be kept with low temperatures below zero, frost, fog, banks, feeling a lot of cold, particularly at night, and occurring isolated rainfalls. Meanwhile, a government operation is in effect to take homeless people to shelters and evacuation centers, as they are the most vulnerable to this winter contingency. On Monday, the National Meteorological Service of Mexico activated the alarms in anticipation of Cyclone Flossy's approach to the country's coast. Flossy is advancing in the Pacific Ocean and is expected to become a hurricane, prompting federal and state authorities to sound the alarm. President Claudia Sheinbaum clarified that the tropical storm's circulation to the south of Guerrero will generate torrential rains as well as intense rains in Jalisco, Colima, Michoacán, and Oaxaca. Sheinbaum noted that the hurricane will be the closest to Mexico's coast on Tuesday, bringing intense rainfall, strong wind gusts, and higher than usual waves. A heat wave hits European countries. As a result, they have experienced record temperatures, health alerts, and wildfires. In this context, all European governments warned that wildfires and health issues triggered by the heat wave were likely to happen this week, so they urged the population to take precautionary measures. In the case of Greece, officials issued again a high wildfire alert, as on Thursday they popped out a wildfire in Athens. Likewise, the Italian health ministry declared red alert to 21 out of the 27 main cities, including Rome, Milan, and Naples. Similarly, 2/3 of Portugal have been in top alert as of Sunday. Nearby Spain was battered Saturday with 46 degrees Celsius in El Granado, Huelva province, and it currently records over 40 degrees Celsius in Seville and other cities. Meanwhile, Turkish authorities have evacuated over 50,000 people in 3 eastern and southern provinces as a result of large-scale wildfires. In this regard, official sources unfolded that over 263-day wildfires have damaged some 200 residential buildings in Beylikdüzü and Izmir provinces. In addition, preliminary estimates inform that 2 out of the over 260 wildfires still remain active. Meanwhile, officers have arrested 17 suspects of having set these wildfires. In China, a level 4 emergency response has been activated ahead of the potential flash floods in the Chongqing Principality and Sichuan and Gansu provinces. Subsequently, authorities have strengthened surveillance, issuing alerts, and organizing evacuations. Meanwhile, recovery efforts continue in Rongjiang County, southwestern Guizhou province, where flooding displaced over 40,000 people. Meanwhile, the Eastern Cape province of South Africa was declared a disaster area due to severe flooding and extreme weather conditions. This designation activates broader response mechanisms and mobilizes resources to address the emergency, which left 101 people dead. The Ministry of Social Development coordinated with private sector partners to deploy psychosocial assistance in the affected areas. The Ministry of Health implemented mobile units to provide immediate medical attention. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.